This is Becky Campbell from Sewforever Quilting, and we're going to do some piecing on the daisy chain quilt pattern. It is a lot of just getting things to lay flat. Want to get these little guys out of here and make sure that this bottom is turned up so I'm not sewing through that seam allowance, so I'll be able to bend it through next time. So we get that held down, and this little tip is going to go there. I can feel that it came back, so I'm going to use this purple thing, and I'm going to swipe it under and hold it against the feed dogs and make sure this little guy's out of there. And I can feel where I want it. So I'm going to set my needle down at that point and make sure this bottom one is flipped out. And I'm going to set that down, hold my thread, and stitch my 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I want to back stitch and cut my thread and trim. That's a little wide. Let's see what it looks like there. That's a little wide. I think I'll take that out and get a little closer to the 1/4 inch, but you can see how it goes so nicely into the tip there. Okay, I've got it lined up a bit better, and you can see where my line was. Now I'm closer to the 1/4 inch, so I'm going to stitch that down there and cut my thread. It's going to tack for me, and then I am going to take out the other stitching that I didn't want in. Okay, we're going to flip this over so we can make our next seam, and it takes a little bit of moving around and manipulating to get it to lay flat, and it's hard to do when the camera's in front of my face, but we've got that laying flat. Once again, we want this flipped up, and sometimes, I'm not much of a pinner, but sometimes it's good to get that pinned out of the way so it lays flat. And then on this end, you want to lay this down because we're lining up this edge with the underneath piece, and we want it straight on there. And let's see, if we flip it up, I can see the edge of that fabric, and we can pin it there because I need to turn it completely around. Flip everything around so I can get it to lay flat. And I'm going to pull this down just a little bit so it's lined up better for that edge. There we go. Pull that out. I'm going to stick the pin in there just so that, get my thread out. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to set my needle down, and I can guesstimate my 1/4 inch very well, and I can see my other stitching. Okay, now we're good. All right, and then I'm going to pull this pin out so I'm not stitching over it, and then I'm going to flip the underneath up so I'm not stitching through it, and we're going to sew. English paper piecing on the machine. And I'm going to sew right into that corner where I see my other stitches. You probably can't see them, but I can see them. Okay. So, see what we get. Trim. Trim. And open it up. And they're not all perfect, but when it's all said and done, you won't know the difference. Like that one's perfect, that one's just a little bit off, but that's okay. So let's see. This one's perfect. This one's a tiny bit off, but in the grand scheme of things, it won't matter. this seam here is my favorite seam because I'm going to get to sew straight across, and I got two at once. So I'm going to flip it over and pull that up, hold onto this bottom, and lay this over to make sure that I'm on the edge there. And I don't always have to pin, but since I'm looking around the camera, it makes it easier. I'm going to look at these guys and make sure that they're lined up nicely. And I can sew through my seam allowance here because nothing's going to get flipped around. So we're going to get this into position and drop my needle down. I'm at 1/4 inch. I'm going to stitch along here and stitch through the area that's 1/4 inch at that point. Stitch to the other side, tack, and trim. So let's see what we've got. All right. So that's pretty good. And then this side, we're going to flip again and move things around, scrunch it down just a little bit, lay it out there, grab hold of the bottom and flip all that underneath back. Why this thing is so handy. All right. And these were pieced with English paper piecing made modern. So they're very exact, and some were pieced by hand, some were pieced by machine. And get my thread down here. And I'm going to drop my needle. I can feel from the bulk where that point is. And I can also tell that I'm at the like spaced evenly at that tip, and I can see this line here as to where that needle should go down on the other side. So stitch, and stitch to the other side where the stitching is, stop, tack, and trim. All right, so we've got that. Now this is going to flip again, and most of the time I have a little more room to work. So we want this tip to get pulled up here, like that. And let's see if you can see all right. Pull it up here like that. And just manipulate it out. See how that pulled up when I grabbed a hold of it? Lay it down against that edge of the other side. Fold this back so we're not stitching in the seam allowance. And just manipulate it a little bit so it lines up. Okay, head back over here. And turn it around. A lot of it is just getting it to lay flat, and I'm looking at this to see if I'm on this underneath edge. So I can squish that down a little bit so it's meeting up with the underneath edge. Okay, find my thread. Well, tangle up my thread. Let's do it this way. Okay, my thread's out there. All right, so drop my needle down, and I can tell I'm at the 1/4 inch. Put my foot down, and I can see that. Stitch along here, and then as I get over to here, I want to pull, the underneath is pulled back, and the top is pulled back, and I'm headed for my other stitches right there. Just kind of have to be brave and stitch into it, knowing that your other piecing was done well, so you'll be able to get to where you need to go. And oh, that one came out. Where am I? That one came out really good. That's the way it's supposed to happen. So then this one is flipped up. Let's see. Flipped up there. You can see that. And over laid down there. Hopefully you can see that. Sometimes it's hard. All right. And then I can feel that this is butting up against that seam. And again, I want the underneath out of the way. And sometimes it's just helpful to stick a pin in there so everything stays where it is and the feed dogs don't move it around. Back underneath the needle. Scoop it out underneath there to make sure we're clear. Set it down. Whoops. Add a 1/4 inch. And stitch again. Stitch to the other side. And you can see right where I'm going. Probably better than I can see around the camera. All right, stop right there in the other stitch. And I've been putting these on 3 at a time because it's a lot easier than manipulating a whole row. So there we go. And we'll just add some more and continue along.